Yeah, I'm super excited to be back after being a year away from this program, and how we continue just to plug along and continue to make big strides under Coach Stoops. And I'm very excited to get back to a program where I felt like I made an impact on, and I want to continue to do that now from the coaching side.
All right, we'll start with Josh Moore.
Hey, CJ, when you obviously tried to make it with the Giants there. What happened? How did that all play out? I've seen that you signed a futures deal at some point. How does that is that over, or is that something that you could still possibly pursue in the future? Or are you pretty much kind of throwing in that towel and committed to trying to coach?
I think I'm done playing football. So basically, I was signed to a futures contract after the season. I was with them for a portion of the season on the practice squad, and they re-signed me after the season. And then I was going through training, getting ready for like OTAs and stuff, and obviously went through a pandemic and everything like that, so no one could report to the facilities. And then after the draft, we kind of went over our number. We're only allowed to have 90 guys, and so they decided to part ways with me. And then the problem is typically when that happens, you're a free agent. You get a lot of opportunities to work out for other teams, but since things have happened and people aren't allowing anybody in the building, it's kind of tough for a guy like me to be a free agent and not have any workouts. So it just got to the point for me where I didn't want to sit around and wait anymore. And I'm very content and happy with my career as a college football player and my short time in the NFL, especially with my body, going through 4 surgeries in college. I think I was a little checked out and ready to move on in my life. And this was something I really, really wanted to pursue, especially at a program like University of Kentucky, where I really feel like Coach Stoops has done an amazing job. And I really wanted to be a part of something special again, and that's why I'm here.
Okay, next we'll go John Hale.
CJ, you mentioned you kind of joked about being low man on the totem pole there. Just what do you anticipate for your role moving forward, especially as a guy who played with most of these players, a couple of years ago? What can you do for this program?
I just want to give from the coaching end, I want to give our coaches some insight on, what it is to, what these guys are thinking sometimes, being a guy that's kind of fresh out of the locker room, giving some perspective from that point of view. And then obviously just doing as much as I can for these coaches when it comes to, breaking down film, watching practice, giving my thoughts and opinions to them. And then from the player side of view, just being a guy who's been there and done that and seeing a lot of things. If they have any questions for me, they have my respect, I have theirs. And it's just one of those things where I feel like we can have an honest conversation. We can, have, there's kind of a comfortability there between me and the players.
Okay, Nick Roush. Nick, you there?
Maybe muted.
I think he's on mute.
Nick.
Yeah,
there we go. I'm unmuted now. Okay. I sounded like an idiot for a second. Your year away, what was that like being a part of a practice squad, just the daily grind of it? And B, what was it like watching the team from afar go through that kind of roller coaster?
Yeah, from NFL perspective, it was a really big learning experience. Like, because I had started at such a as a freshman at Kentucky, you kind of like, I always wanted to get better and always was trying to improve myself in the game. But when you're a guy who started for 4 years, by the time you're a senior, you kind of think that you've seen everything. And like, to go into a room where I have Evan Ingram and Rhett Ellison, who have 15 years combined in the league, like, it's just to learn from those guys and see things I've never seen before and kind of just be almost like a freshman again when it comes to that type of stuff, just learning. I thought I knew a lot, but I didn't. And that was a very cool experience for me. And then from, looking outside the program and in, it didn't surprise me at all what we did last year, because I knew when Coach Stoops took over this program, he didn't build it for a 1 year boom. It was for a sustained long period of time. And I saw it wasn't just one recruiting class that we put together, it was multiple, and we continued to do that. So it didn't surprise me at all last year to see what we did.
To follow that up real quick, what did you like? What are some of the things you could learn in that short amount of time and take it with you to your coaching experience this upcoming season?
I think sometimes from the tight end position, I feel like I was so big on, like, when things weren't going well, I would kind of result to, like, getting bigger and stronger and faster, which is great. But I learned so much in the NFL about technique. Like, that is everything. I mean, I was with a guy named Rhett Ellison, who really isn't like a guy who he just retired this past year. He's 10 years in the league, and maybe not a lot of people know about him, but he's one of the best blockers in the NFL. And to watch him go about it, and then we would go lift together, and I'm like, oh man, like, this guy's a great blocker. Like, he has to move some weight in the weight room, and like he would put on like 135 on the bar. Like, he's like, dude, I'm 32 years old. I'm not lifting weights anymore. Like, but he still would move people off the line of scrimmage because he was such a good blocker and had such good technique. And so to watch those guys, they're like technicians out there. And so I learned a lot from that point of view.
Okay, let's go with Keith Farmer.
I'm just curious, have you talked to any of the players, or if you haven't, maybe could you imagine going through something like this, not even knowing if you're going to have a season, or if, you kind of just put yourself in the shoes there?
I couldn't imagine it from being a player's perspective, but what we're doing as coaches is we have to act as if we are 1,000% having a season, because if you don't and we do have one, then you're going to come very unprepared. So our guys are doing a great job of being very businesslike. I think our strength staff is doing a great job of preparing these guys like things are completely normal, even though we know things aren't. But, we're going to keep continuing along and be ready for, September 3rd.
Okay, let's go next to John Wang.
Hey, CJ, you look good. You look healthy. You scared us all with that heart issue, and I was just wondering if you could just walk us through your emotions when you first got that diagnosis, and how much of an impact do you think that made on your ability to make an NFL roster?
I do feel good. Thank you for saying that. It was a very tough time last year going through that, especially just like feeling so high on emotions after the Penn State win, and when all my friends and, like Josh Allen and Benny and all those guys are going through that process together, to kind of get the information that was told to me was very tough. I do think it made it very difficult for me because first off, I didn't get to do anything. I didn't have much of a pro day or combine or all-star game. A lot of teams weren't okay with, even though I got cleared later on, not going too much into my medical stuff. I did get cleared later on, but there was still about 80% of the league that wasn't comfortable with my situation. So where everybody else is dealing with a 32-man league, I was dealing for about 6 or 7 teams that were actually interested in me. So it made a lot of things a lot tougher on draft day. It made things a lot tougher when I got released from the Giants, because when you get released, then you have all 32 teams available to pick you up on waivers, and I wasn't quite dealing with all 32.
John, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, after having gone through all that, what advice can you give for somebody who may be struggling with health issues or injuries or something from that aspect now?
I would just say stay the course, because there's a lot of times where I just wanted to give up on myself and just feel really sorry for myself. But at the end of the day, I did get an opportunity, and I'm blessed to get that opportunity, because there was a second there where I didn't even think I would have a chance. Now, did I get the best chance in the world? Maybe not, but I still got an opportunity, and I'm extremely thankful for that.
Okay, let's go now to Josh Moore again.
CJ, you played at UK, but how does a GA opportunity come about? Like, when did you start communicating with the staff, and when did you kind of know? I guess you kind of figure out you wanted to go this route, after the NFL situation kind of dried up. But what was this always in the back of your mind, and how did you kind of establish the opportunity?
Yeah, so I always wanted to be a college coach at one point. I didn't know how soon, based on, obviously my NFL career. So that shortened a little quicker than I thought it would. But I had reached out to Coach Stoops towards the end of the season last year, because I wasn't on a roster, and there was a potential that I was going to get signed to a futures roster. So I was either going to sign to the futures roster or take a GA role in the springtime. And then I got signed to the Giants, and then I got cut after after the draft. So that kind of left me like kind of high and dry. So then I, called Coach Stoops again, and luckily, he still had a spot for me, and I'm still here today. So that's kind of how it took place.
Just a quick follow up there. Is there a coach on the roster, or even maybe back to your high school days or something that you kind of look up to, like a role model, sort of a guy that kind of you looked at and said, oh, I want to be like him, kind of inspired you to go this route?
I would say Courtney Love and Coach Marrow, for two kind of different reasons. Obviously, Courtney took a GA role right after his senior season, and me and him, we lived together, we're roommates. I'm living with him right now. Like, he's one of those guys that we agree on a lot of things when it comes to football. Our philosophies on things, our leadership, our culture and stuff like that. So I watched him go take that GA position. It was something that like him being able to connect with the players right away, and that kind of really intrigued me. And then Coach Merrill, like from the recruiting aspect, like watching how he can interact interpersonally with so many different people with different backgrounds and different families, and be so successful at what he does. That intrigues me, because I feel like that's something, once eventually maybe I move up in my career and become a position coach one day, that I can become a good recruiter like he is, because I watch how good he is to talking with different people, and just learning how he does things is very interesting for me.
Again?
Well, just to follow up on that, what does Coach Marrow do that brings in so many good players to this program? That they've had trouble in the past getting players to come here. What is it? How does he talk to them and get them so excited about the program?
Well, I can't talk like Coach Marrow, so I mean, you guys kind of see how he is, but I would just say that he's very good at interacting with people from different backgrounds, everywhere, anyhow. He can get you in Ohio, he can get you in Florida, he can get you in California, Kentucky. It doesn't matter. He does such a good job of connecting with these guys and their families, and selling a vision. And he's very, Coach Marrow is he's an aggressive guy. He'll get in your ear, and he's one of those guys that, if he wants you, he's going to really, really show it. And a lot of guys take interest in that. People want to be wanted, and Coach Marrow does a good job of showing that.
Josh Morgan.
Jay, how do you obviously the COVID has affected your life a lot to this point, and a lot of people's lives around the football team. How do you what if say the season just I know you have to prepare as if it's happening, but what do you see your role like manifesting in the coming weeks if things kind of either get delayed or if the season gets canceled? I guess how do you think you'll be occupied?
I have no idea. I honestly, I just started like 2 weeks ago. So right now I'm preparing for a season. I don't even want to think about not having a season. I have no idea. I'm sorry, I couldn't answer that for you.
Okay, Dr. Wong.
TJ, how has your relationship with Coach Stoops changed now that you've gone from a coach-player relationship to a colleague relationship? Do you get to call him Mark now, or how does that work?
No, I'm not calling him Mark. But to be honest with you, by the time I was a senior, that's one of the things I really liked about Coach Stoops was with our senior class, he kind of treated us like it was the player-coach relationship, but he was very good about, taking our opinions. That's one of the things Coach Stoops is really good at, is interacting with his players. And if he trusts you, he's going to ask you for your thoughts. And so now that I'm on the coaching side, it kind of just reminds me of how things were my senior year, because that was our kind of relationship, is we trusted each other and we can have honest conversations with each other. So it's about the same than it was my senior year. So it's good. It was good to be back. And and I love working with Coach Stoops.
Are you going to be able to get the tight ends involved a little bit more in the offense now?
I'm going to trust me. I'm going to say do as much as I can.
Okay, let's go John Hale.
Speaking of that, CJ, what do you see from Justin and Keaton and Brendan, those guys that you played with, but now they've had a whole nother year of development? What can they do now?
Yeah, I was really impressed. Today was the first time we were able to kind of work with the guys hands on a little bit, just like watching them on the field. And I was really impressed with how how they look physically, coming off the quarantine, and how much they've done a good job of staying in shape, and so they look ready to go, and I'm excited for them. It's been 2 years since I've played with them. I'm kind of impressed with Nikojenovich as well. He looks very good. He's put on a lot of weight. So that whole room, like, we got 4 guys that can start day one, and I'm very impressed with that.
Nick Roush.
John stole my thunder a little bit, so I'll ask, what are the different kind of things and little wrinkles that an Eddie Grant offense can do out of 12 personnel when you've got such a deep group right now?
I just think that what we're trying to work at as an offensive staff is to work our run game off our pass game. We've been so successful the last 6 years of running the football, and we're our best to realize that we have some really big, strong, powerful tight ends that can make some plays in the passing game, and just using those guys and run sets and playing some play action on it. And that's some stuff that we've talked about in our meetings, and hopefully we're working on putting that together. So that's the next plan.
Long again. No.
It's muted. Yes. It's muted again. Sucks.
Okay. You're muted.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, let me try one more time. CJ, it seems like there couldn't be any controversy about a hire such as great as yours, and yet I don't know whether it was a slow news day or whatever, but there were a couple of tweets from some former UK players. I didn't know if you heard about those. Lonnie Johnson and Jordan Griffin had tweeted out. It seemed like there was a little bit of veiled animosity behind those. I didn't know if you could expound on that, or now that you're a coach, we can ask you stuff like that.
No, there's nothing wrong there with that relationship. Me and Lonnie are really good friends. So me and Jordan Griffin, we had spoken about it, and there's no problems at all. It was a little miscommunication, but other than that, it was no big deal.
All right. Anybody else have a question? If not, then we're going to conclude this, and thanks CJ for coming on with